people need to understand is that body composition is a mass in, mass out exercise, not an energy in, energy out exercise. It's got nothing to do with energy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 129 of the SuperSetYourLife.com podcast, which we are normally your weekly dose, but lately it's more been like your daily dose, and haven't received any complaints on that, though, of entertainment, education, and inspiration to fuel your life inside and beyond the gym. Definitely had to put an asterisk next to education because we have had lots of emphasis on the word education spectrum lately, as a couple of weeks ago, Professor Bart Kay respectfully, but certainly set me straight on a couple things on his show that we, as well as a lot of our clients, would like to better understand. So, number one, why calories do not apply to the human body. And number two, meal timing, macro ratios to best optimize hypertrophy training for bodybuilding athletes like myself without suffering chronic inflammation and other gut health issues that can arise from being in a chronic state of gluconeogenesis. And number three, best rep ranges for muscle hypertrophy. So we'll get into those. Professor K, I've got my journal here that never leaves my side, filled with notes and lots of questions, having spent the last couple of weeks taking detailed notes on your YouTube series, Human Nutrition 101. Lots of questions for you today there. Listeners, if you happen to be one of the unfortunate souls that is unfamiliar with the work of Professor K, please exit this podcast and go directly to his YouTube channel, Professor Bart Kay main channel, and his Instagram at Bart_K_nutrition. I will put links to all these in the show notes. For what it's worth, I've helped a lot of bodybuilding athletes get a lot of awards, but I've been treating his course like a college class because these subjects that we will discuss today are the areas that I'm just going to be completely honest, I definitely need to improve on as a coach. Professor K, welcome to the SuperSetYourLife.com podcast.
Colt, thank you very much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. It's a privilege to be able to share with you and your people. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Let's start with the C word, if we could. Could you please explain again, in like as few words as possible, why they do not apply to the human body?
Right. Do not apply might be too strong.
Okay.
Semantics are quite important here, but even more important than semantics is getting the right message across. So I will try and be as parsimonious as possible, meaning as few words as I can muster to give you the answer, but it's also important that I get this right. A calorie is an estimation of the amount of energy stored in one particular form in a bolus of food of some kind. You have to backpedal from there and you have to go down the rabbit warren to have a look at this though. Mm-hmm. The first thing you need to understand is that energy is not a thing that can be measured. It is a construct. It's an idea. The only way we can gauge the effect of the construct energy is by looking at something physical, its effect on something, for want of a better term, real. Okay. The thing that's looked at when we are so-called measuring a so-called calorie is how much does a bath of water of a certain volume increase in temperature when we rapidly combust a sample of said food inside a closed system called a bomb calorimeter using a very large electrical current to basically instantaneously vaporize this food. And we produce carbon dioxide, water, and heat as a result of rapidly destroying that food substance and breaking it into its lowest common denominators, those being carbon dioxide, water, and heat. Okay.
Okay.
That is not what the human body does with food. Sure, the human body does break food down to carbon dioxide, water and heat, absolutely, but it does not do it in the same fashion. It does not do it without control. It does it slowly and progressively. It doesn't do it rapidly. And for most foods that people will consume, it does not do it completely. Some of the food that you eat, you excrete after a period of time. Some of that mass that you consumed in the food is excreted in your feces, some of it in your urine, some of it in your sweat, some of it in your tears, some of it in mucus. More so for you lately, Colt, because you tell me you've had some issues with mucus.
Yes, it's been a lot of the mucus lately. We don't want to talk about that anymore.
Fair play.
No, thank you.
And a fair amount of the mass is excreted from your body in the form of carbon dioxide gas. So, yes, that's what happens. But what that means is that uncouples the accuracy of the calorie as a measurement of the effective energy contained in foods. So you can say, oh, well, yes, it's a gauge, though. It's a coarse gauge. It's a rough gauge. It gives us some idea. To which the answer is, well, unfortunately not, because the error of estimation of actual effective energy intake from foods is so vast, is so wide, that the calorie as a metric of energy in food, its utility is about none at all. You can tell the difference energy-wise between eating, say, 2,500 so-called calories versus 100 so-called calories. And you can see, yes, absolutely, they are different amounts of effective energy consumed. Yes, they're likely to have different effects over time in the body. A person who eats 100 calories a day chronically will not do as well as a person who eats 2,500. And I'm assuming that we're talking about a person of average body mass. So that's clear. Those things are so vastly different that we would be able to know the difference. And frankly, we don't need to measure anything to see that. We can look at 100 calories on a plate and 2,000 on a plate, and we can suggest which one of those is a sensible amount of food and which one is not. So no measurement is required there. However, if I'm going to look at 2,500 calories versus 2,000 on a plate, there's no way I'm going to be able to tell which one's going to have the best effect or predict in any way. So that's the shortest version of it. There's much more to it than that. There's much more science and pseudoscience to cover on that in that field. What people need to understand is that body composition is a mass in, mass out exercise, not an energy in, energy out exercise. It's got nothing to do with energy. Energy not only is a construct and therefore has no physical reality, but the exact mass, the exact weight of any amount of energy you like in the form of energy is 0 grams. For example, the actual form of energy carried to the water in the bomb calorimeter example, the thing that we would call a calorie, the amount of energy that would raise that bath of water by 1 degree Celsius, that is carried to that water in the form of photons, electromagnetic waves. The exact rest mass of a photon, and ergo any number of photons, is none. You cannot gain weight by absorbing photons, and that's not what you do with food anyway. Neither can you lose weight by exuding photons. They don't weigh anything. Any amount of weight, plus or minus 0, will remain unchanged. Those are the facts.
Okay.
To change your body composition or the mass of your body, or both, you must change the amount of mass contained in your body. It is a mass in, mass out exercise, not energy.
Wow.
So there you go.
Yeah. And photons, just to double check on terminology here, those are subatomic particles that are smaller than electrons that do not have mass.
Photons have an exact spatial extent of none at all if you're thinking about a photon as a point particle.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about a photon as the field, the energetic field, so-called, then its spatial extent is everywhere. It's one of those particle field duality issues in quantum physics that most people can't get their heads around. So we probably don't need to spend too much time on it. But to clarify your question, the exact rest mass of a photon is none. It has no weight. It has no mass. Another way of putting that is it does not interact with the Higgs field.
Wow.
So you cannot change your weight, your mass, by changing the number of photons in your body or out of it. And that's what calories are, a measurement of photons heating up water by interacting with it.
A huge light bulb just went off in my head. Thanks. Sometimes you just have to hear the same thing 2 or 3 times and then it finally makes sense. But yeah, that really helped me tie everything together. So I appreciate that a lot. And hey, everybody, if you're listening, I'm going to put a link to that exact study where he goes into a lot more depth than that in our show notes. Okay. Hey, Professor Bart, this has been life-changing for me actually these last couple of weeks, just not even thinking about calories. I literally don't have a clue how many calories I'm consuming right now. I'm loving it. I've taken it out of all of our clients' plans, and we had one person politely ask to put the calories back in because she just wants to know what they are so that she can track them for her purposes. But everybody has been very well receptive so far. When it comes to, this is an emotional topic for a lot of people, because this is your health, this is your body, it's how you look, it's it's important. But taking that out of it has just taking calories out of the equation has gotten me and has gotten everybody really to look at food with just a completely different perspective now. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. It is an emotional topic for many people. But also what we need to understand about the way people think in general is that if you hear a lie enough times with enough confidence, that lie becomes your truth for a lot of people. And not only is someone saying to you that that lie is a lie uncomfortable, it can also be offensive to people purely because you are speaking against their theological belief in something that they've been trained to believe. And they will actually defend that falsehood against anyone who wants to heretically state that their canon is no good. And they will die on that hill, some of them. So these are the people that say, I must have the calories. You must tell me what the calories are. I can't work with this. What are you talking about? We don't have to measure anything. What I have found in working with clients who want to control their body composition is that the signal we use, the measurement that we use to most effect, the best tool we have in our kit bag, well, there's 2 tools. One, make sure they are eating the correct food for a human being, which does include several things and certainly does not include several other things, without any question. Once we get the balance of what they are eating correct, then their body signaling is also correct. In other words, do you feel hungry for actual human food? Yes, eat some. When you suddenly get that message that your brain says to you or your body says to you, geez, I feel full now, you stop eating. That's it. You don't have to measure anything ever. All you have to do is listen to your body. That, of course, will only work if your diet is species appropriate, species specific, and in line with your genetic gift and past. And that diet is 100% carnivore. No plant material of any kind. As soon as you put plants in your diet, that will mess up your satiety and hunger signaling, and it won't work properly.
I've noticed, especially like if I'm on days where I'm feeling hungry, and then the temptation is to go, okay, let's just stick to all of our calories, macros, proteins, and everything like we planned, but I'm going to eat a really big salad that like basically has no calories, and trying to keep all my calories as low as possible. Whenever I've done that in the past, it's weird. I'm definitely fuller and I feel bloated, but oddly enough, I'm hungrier all of a sudden. And it doesn't happen when I abstain from eating plants.
Exactly. Yeah. Plant material will fill you up. It will give you a sense of fullness in the stretch receptors in your stomach, etc. It will bulk out your stool. It will destroy your enteric function.
Yeah.
Unequivocally. It will fill you also with gas as it ferments in your gut because you can't actually digest that stuff. But what it will not do is supply you with the nutrient that you need. And so, yes, you will feel full, you will feel bloated, you will have distended abdomen, you will have compromised bowel function, possibly constipation, you'll certainly have gas, but you will still feel like, geez, I need more food.
Yeah, and it makes you, and let's just address the white elephant in the room, right? I mean, it makes you poop more. You poop more because it's pushing things through, but there's also stuff that's just flat out not being digested.
Yeah,
exactly. Cool. Are you familiar with side note, are you familiar with Maxwell Maltz in the book Cybernetics?
Yes, I have read it many years ago.
Oh, you have? Yeah. Okay. This is the old one, and then he has a new one, and so the new one is just I found the newer revised version a bit simpler and easier to understand. But going back to what you made a comment. If you hear the same lie enough times over and over again, you'll believe it. And that's I've been kind of obsessed with the power of the subconscious mind my entire life, and so this has been one of my favorite books. And I just thought it was funny that you said the same thing too. So cool beans. All right. May I ask you a personal question about my own macros?
Of course.
Cool. I reduced my daily protein intake from 400 grams a day, based on our first conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been lowered to about 275, 280 ever since. I'm on about 2 weeks of that. I feel like it has been helping with the inflammation. However, being sick, it's kind of tough to tell. So I'm going to give it a couple more weeks and see what that does. But I'm curious as to if you think that number might be low enough, or what else you would need to know to know if that protein number is optimal, and having my fats around 400 grams is high.
So, for those that need the background on that, who maybe didn't see the first discussion that Colt and I had a few weeks ago.
And I can summarize it too, but if you want to, sorry, go for it.
So I'll go ahead and do that if that's okay. Basically, the argument is this. There is an amount of protein that you require individually based on your activity level, whether you're a hypertrophy athlete or not, your age and stage, your height, your gender, all sorts of things play into it. However, there is a rule of thumb that works pretty well for almost everybody that tells us how much protein is optimal, plus or minus a very small amount. And it is 1.75 grams of protein per kilogram of lean or ideal body mass.
Okay.
If you consume more protein than that, the excess protein that you're not using is transmuted metabolically into sugar. And that's what the problem is.
Okay. So basically to summarize that in as few words as possible, gluconeogenesis is similar to a high carb diet in the way that you're still running off of glycogen. You're still running off of sugar, even though you're not eating sugar. It becomes sugar because you're consuming it in excess. Okay. That number that you mentioned again was and I'm sorry I wasn't able to catch it. Did you mention what?
1.75 grams of protein per kilogram of lean or ideal mass. Now, if you're an individual with pretty low body fat, then you can just use what your mass is as a pretty good indicator of that number.
Okay.
So what do you weigh, Colt?
So I weighed 108.0 pounds this morning, right after my workout.
All right. So let me just grab a calculator. We can do this right now. 108 pounds. What we want to do is, first of all, turn that into kilograms to work with the number, the scale I've just been working with. So we're going to divide that by 2.2.
Okay.
49 kilograms. Are you that light? I don't think so. Did you say 108 pounds?
I weigh 198 pounds.
198. That makes much more sense. Goodness me. 198 pounds. I must have misheard you. My bad. Divided by 2.2 gives us the kilograms. 90. That's much more like what you weigh. All right. Now what we want to do is we want to multiply that 90 by 1.75.
Okay.
Which tells us that you should be taking in 157.5 grams of protein in a day.
That's like a snack for me.
Well, this is the issue. All right.
Okay.
Now, to get a weight of meat that would give you 157.5 grams of protein, we need to multiply that number by 4 because meat is mostly water in terms of its weight.
So just to make sure just to make sure we're on the same page. So 100 what was the number of grams of protein again?
157.5.
Okay. So anything more than that is maybe not necessary then?
Anything more than that will turn into sugar.
Okay.
Now that's plus or minus. There'll be an individual range.
Yeah.
If you were in a very heavily hypertrophy-based phase, if you were bulking massively in terms of putting on muscle mass, instead of the 1.75 grams per kilogram of lean mass, you might be able to go as high as 1 gram per centimeter of height. But for most people, that's too much. However, what we're really talking about at the end of the day is 630 grams of meat, not counting the fat. So maybe you're talking about a 710 gram steak, including the fat. So what you would do is you would prepare that. You would probably add extra fat in the form of extra lard or tallow, probably for a steak, or you could add butter or whatever you like that's fatty.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of pork belly lately.
Yeah, that's great too. Yeah.
Because it's less processed than bacon.
Yeah. And what happens is you prioritize the protein, you eat that first.
Okay.
And then you're eating fat until you get that message where your body will tell you, whoa, that's enough now. And when your body does give you that message, your job is to listen to it and to stop eating at that point.
Okay. So right now I'm eating 2 meals a day. First one is today's actually probably going to be 1 meal a day. I made a very, very, very stupid decision and booked 2 podcasts the same day, which for me is, I know for you, that's nothing. For me, that's a lot.
Okay.
But this and my other responsibilities will definitely keep me busy the rest of the day to where today is definitely 1 meal a day. Okay. So normally what I would do is have the pork belly first, which has an insane amount of fat. There's like no other meat that has as much fat as pork belly does. Yeah. And then I would consume chicken thighs or a steak, maybe salmon tonight. I'm not sure, but my protein would be after, assuming that if my insulin levels are nice and low at the end of a day like today, which they should be, that would be the good time to have fats because there's no way it could be stored as fat, and then have my protein afterward.
Well, here's the thing on that. Insulin, I get it with the insulin thing and the insulin to glucagon ratio and all that kind of thing that determines the fate of fats. that are entering the bloodstream and circulating through the liver, etc., and being engaged by the liver, and the liver is reacting to what messages it's receiving to pump out insulin and or glucagon. At the end of the day, if your intake of mass of fat is at the right level, which it will be if you're listening to your satiety signaling, it's not going to be stored as fat because it's going to be plus or minus a very small amount, exactly what you needed to oxidize for energy. Your body knows what it needs. That's why it has the signaling. Because humans have been around in our exact form now on this planet for about 350,000 years. Prior to that, in proto-humans, very nearly humans, but not quite human species, it's 4.5 million years. During almost all of that time, we have not had even an understanding of what energy is or is not, or the ability to measure it in calories, or computer systems to track this stuff, or I'm a good boy, here's my food, into the old spreadsheet programs that tell you you've been a good boy and you've done the right thing. Somehow, there needed to be some way of our bodies communicating with us to tell us how to behave in terms of food intake, to maintain our food mass intake, what most people will call our energy intake. It's nothing of the sort. It's the intake of mass, okay, that needed to be kept at a level that subserves the amount of energy we are typically using, the amount of work we are typically doing is what that really means. And to maintain the health of our bodies and the integrity of our body structures and all those other things it needs to do, you will not see cave paintings of fat cavemen. There weren't any.
Yeah, and you're not going to see a painting of a salad either.
No, because we didn't count anything. We didn't put anything in a spreadsheet. We didn't say how many calories have I had today or anything like that. What we did is we went, ugh, me hungry, eat, yum, 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 meat and fat. Me no hungry now, stop eating now, good. It's that simple. That is what people should do.
Yeah.
And if you get nothing else from this podcast, I hope that's the message you get. Stop tracking, stop counting, stop measuring, stop all of this nonsense. It's just mental illness. I'm sorry. That's all it is. Listen, first of all, 2 steps. 1, eat the right foods. Muscle meat, and I mean that, muscle meat, not organs, and associated fat of large ruminant animals mostly. No plant material of any kind. Start eating when you feel hungry for that food. And when your body says that's enough now, stop eating, even if there's 2 mouthfuls left on your plate. Put it in the fridge and come back to it later. It'll still be there. Well, in some houses it will be.
That sounds like a brilliant, wonderful, awesome approach to be the healthiest human being that you can possibly be. From an athletic perspective, if the goal is literally to get down to 3% body fat, is that, do you believe that's possible to follow your own satiety signals and do that? Or do you think that tracking numbers is necessary? Because I don't know how to do it otherwise.
If you have a specific so-called athletic goal to get down to 3% body fat, the first question I would ask you is that an athletic goal or is that an aesthetic goal?
For me, it's both.
Okay. So what would be the benefit athletically to having a level of body fat that is actually probably below what's healthy? Because 3% body fat is too low.
Okay. Right. Sorry. So from a performance standpoint, 3% body fat is definitely not the place that you want to be. No. I feel the best athletically when I'm carrying a little more body fat than what I have right now, like probably around 200 pounds. But being a bodybuilder and being a bodybuilding coach, I'm okay with being maybe 5 pounds lighter than I really should be. and trying to stay around 10 pounds above body weight.
So the benefit to having a level of body fat that's below what's healthy for a bodybuilder is that's one of the aspects by which bodybuilders are judged. That's one of the flaws in the bodybuilding fraternity, for want of a better word. The fact that incredibly low levels of body fat are lauded, you are rewarded for that. It makes you competitive as a bodybuilder. That's the benefit if you want to win bodybuilding competitions.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you want to maintain a body fat around 3% for any period of time, really, to speak of, that will reduce your health span and probably your lifespan in the long term. It is not a good idea. And that is why bodybuilders don't maintain that level of body fat all year round, because it's basically unsustainable. It's
yeah, no. After because I was 3% for about 3 months straight at the end of 2022, and I was forgetting people's names by the end of it. Like I didn't start feeling normal again until about a month later.
Yeah. So if you're a man, I would suggest no lower than about 8 to 10% body fat would be where you'd want to sit health-wise. And that's what, following the advice I've just finished giving you, that's where it'll take you. If you're a woman, it's more like 15 to 17% is about where a really good healthy range is, where you won't look like a ripped up bodybuilder, but you will look healthy. You will be at the peak.
A lady like that would look great in a bikini on the beach.
Exactly what I mean. Yes, exactly. Yeah. If you do want to strip body fat off, there are means by which we can help people achieve that for things like competitions, etc. I tend to be reticent, if not absolute, saying no, I'm not going to do it, to help people with that. Myself, I'm not a bodybuilding coach. I don't want to be a bodybuilding coach. I'm a health coach. I would normally work with a person in that situation to try and convince them actually to do something less damaging with their life. But that's just me.
Yeah. The reason, just for the record, that my wife and I, our clients, people like Robert Sykes, you see, like, sure. Oh, he was just on your show, wasn't he?
No, Rob Goodwin I had.
Oh, okay. Because I know that because I was just recording with Robert Sykes, the Keto Savage, and I know that he was going to get on your show soon. But for us, it's more of who you become through the process, and when you get to the point to where you're 3% body fat 2 weeks out from a show, you really start having to take inventory of what's important to you in life and what's not, and the amount of discipline that it takes to be able to do that and to do well at a show and to come out of it. It's something pretty valuable who you come out on as on the other side. And then when you have challenges come up in your life, it's like, okay, I've done something that I didn't think I could do, and this is just another challenge. So I guess for us and for our athletes, most of our athletes are actually ages 30 to 50 years old.
Yeah.
And when they come out of a show, it's more of a personal victory.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Cool. All right. So yeah, I guess to sum up, tracking macros, tracking the way that we've been doing it, I mean, that'll definitely get somebody down to 3% body fat, because it definitely works. Staying there for an extended period of time, terrible idea. As a matter of fact, you should get out of that as soon as you possibly can. And if you're a woman, you should never be as low as 3% body fat. You would probably die. So
yeah. Now the thing with the whole tracking and macros and calories and all of that is that the argument from people that have an antithetical view to mine will say is that you can argue against this all you like, it works, and it always works. What they are leaving out there, it's partial information. The part they're leaving out is it always works, provided that you reduce your intake of so-called calories by such a large amount that the errors that I'm talking about in the estimation of actual effective so-called energy from earlier are completely swamped, so that there's no way that your actual intake could possibly not be covered by that error range. So to make it work, you have to reduce your calories by such a large number that it's actually not only contraindicated and dangerous, but frankly stupid. And if you're doing that for a prescribed period of time in order to lose so-called weight, by which you mean fat off your body, sure, that will work while ever you're able to maintain that. However, your body will work against you. And at some point that will no longer be sustainable. Your health will collapse, and or you'll have to stop doing that. And the weight will, the fat will all come right back on, because you will now refeed yourself. You'll overeat.
Yeah.
Yo-yo diet is what I'm talking about.
Great.
Or you will destroy your metabolism long term if you're doing this long term. This is not an approach that any sensible human being should ever take to moderating their body composition or weight, ever.
For a short period of time, like for a show, or for a long period of time?
What I'm suggesting is that for a very, very short period of time, a person that's vastly grossly under eating is unlikely to do any long-term damage. Maybe you're going to do it for a show as a bodybuilder. However, the question then becomes, how often are you going to do shows? How many shows are you going to do in your life? Because every single time you vastly grossly undereat, even for a relatively short period of time, you are likely to be doing damage.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't think you should do it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add on to that too, actually. And I know that well, okay, let's just I'm just gonna say it straight. I don't get the impression that you and Layne Norton are particularly buddies.
That would be an understatement.
Yeah. Okay. So he has cited, he's even cited studies, though. And you know me, I wouldn't be able to pull them up, but that when you get down to a very, very low body fat percentage, if you're there too long, you run a huge risk of actually creating more fat cells, so that you'll be able to so that you're able to regain fat easier and faster, which for a bodybuilder is catastrophic.
Yeah, sure. That's one of the few things I've ever heard that Layne Norton has ever had to say that might actually have some validity.
Oh, I'm gonna send him that. I'll probably make his day. I'm just kidding.
That probably will. He actually probably, he doesn't care about my opinions, actually. But if he didn't care about them, he probably wouldn't be commenting publicly about what they are, would he?
Okay.
I care not one jot about Layne Norton as a person, frankly, but I do care about the fact that he is espousing dangerous, contraindicated misinformation to people under the perceived authority of his so-called credentials. That's why I'm against what Layne Norton is doing. It's nothing personal.
Mm-hmm.
It's because what he is saying is wrong, demonstrably wrong, and it's dangerous. And people need to understand why it is that he is both wrong and injurious to public health. And what are you saying? So that covers that one off.
Well, that's your heart. Yeah.
That's the facts. That is the scientific facts. He is wrong about what he's saying. It is dangerous what he's saying.
And when I said that's your heart, what I meant by that was that your purpose is to present the facts and to say, hey, we've been misinformed, everybody. We've been lied to, and this is the truth, and that's what I love about your work.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think I should expect if I were to if I were to, because like after that whole tracking conversation, what would you expect, just practically speaking, for the next 4 weeks? Do you think might happen to my physique and my overall health if I were to decrease my protein from 275 down to now your recommended 160, which for me feels extremely low? and then increasing some fats, because I'm definitely going to miss that protein.
Yeah. Okay. So there will be a transition. Your body will go into some kind of mild shock because you've changed your intakes. So I would suggest that you actually adjust your macros relatively slowly and steadily. I don't suggest you change it tomorrow, overnight. Right.
Oh,
tomorrow,
good thing I asked, because I got my spreadsheet right here, and I was just about to make those changes.
Yeah, no, don't do it suddenly, because that will upset your system. That will throw your body into some shock, and that will work against you a bit. So change it slowly, as ramp style as possible, as least stairway wise as possible, is what I mean. And allow your body to adjust to it relatively slowly. You probably won't find this as an issue, so long as you're following your satiety signaling, and so long as you're not exceeding the protein suggestion by too much.
Okay.
Because it will be plus or minus a little bit for individual differences. When your satiety signaling kicks in, that means you've got enough energy on board.
Okay.
And that your body will tell you to stop. The other thing that I would absolutely reiterate and encourage you once again is to get to one meal a day, every day.
I love one meal a day, especially towards the tail end. Like, I feel euphoric, like almost like I'm high on a drug. Like, that's how good it feels at the end of just a 24-hour fast. But this is something else I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, like something like this. This is a sugar-free energy drink. You know,
okay.
Stuff like that. I take throughout the day. Pre-workouts,
Right.
creatine. Yeah.
You want to watch those for caffeine content, both listed as caffeine and also listed as other things, which are also caffeine.
Oh yeah, if I go up 200, if I go north of 200 grams, my anxiety goes through the roof.
Right, I'd get you off caffeine altogether.
Really?
Yeah, I'd get anybody that possibly can get off caffeine altogether. I would get them off it.
Wow. Should I stop cold turkey, or should I stop?
No, you should ramp it down.
Just like Thanksgiving leftovers, just quit cold turkey.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. That'll cause you a withdrawal problem.
Oh, okay. So taper off slowly then.
Taper off the caffeine, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be drinking.
Wife is going to be happy.
I wouldn't, those canned energy drink things, I wouldn't be going anywhere near those with a barge pole, frankly.
Okay.
They're rubbish, all of them.
What specifically happens? Is the artificial sweetener that throws off your satiety?
Artificial sweetener will cause an insulin response, even if there's no carbohydrate to be had, because as soon as your brain senses sweetness on your tongue, it sends a message down to say, rightio, we've got some sugar coming in here, even though you haven't. Okay. Release some insulin.
Would something like as simple as chewing gum trigger a similar response?
If it's got artificial sweetener in it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Boy, you have to pick between sugar and if you have to pick between sugar and gum and artificial sweetener gum, it's kind of like
I would say find something else to do with your jaw. Frankly,
record a podcast.
But you know, on top of the artificial sweeteners you'll find in these junk drinks, you will also find caffeine and a second dose of caffeine and a third dose of caffeine, called three different things, even though they're all caffeine.
Oh yeah.
For example, guarana is caffeine. And then on top of that, most of them are carbonated, which is a bad idea.
Yeah, this one's also carbonated.
Right. So I'd get that out of your life, frankly.
You got it.
Yeah.
Should I taper off that, or should
I hope that's unequivocal.
What's that?
Yeah. I hope that's clear and unequivocal. But it's up to you what you do. Obviously, I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just saying that's what I'd do. I'd get that gone. Okay.
Well, because I mean, you know me. Anything that sacrifices performance, not cool. Just flat out, to be completely honest, ain't gonna happen. And there's a lot of people that is like, hey, like that's part of their lifestyle. Like, if I can't have that anymore, like that's not okay. But anyway, I guess what I'm just trying to say is that performance is really important for me.
Yep.
On that note, creatine. I'm a huge fan of creatine. What does that look like when you take it in a fasted state?
Right. Creatine monohydrate usually is the form that you'll get it in. a white crystalline powder that you dissolve in a drink or whatever, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I use creatine glycerol phosphate, which is the same
Okay.
thing, but it has a glycerol bond attached to it.
Sure. All right. Okay, fine. The effect of creatine, the most potent effect of creatine in your system, additional creatine, supplemental creatine, is that it will cause your muscles to retain and hold more water. It will plump your muscles up. It will make them look bigger.
Yep.
However, that extra water in those muscle cells will interfere with the contractile function of those muscle cells. Creatine will not make you more powerful. It will not make you stronger. It will not make you more resistant to fatigue. None of those things have been shown to be effective in the literature. The one thing it will do is it will plump your muscles up with water. As such, a pretty expensive way of achieving that, I would have thought.
Yeah, it definitely makes me look harder and drier on stage, specifically the CGP with the glycerol bond attached to it.
Sure.
And this has just been trial and error. So creatine monohydrate, I'll look watery. This one, I'll be dry and hard. And I've been under the impression that it has been contributing to my performance and to the muscle that I've been able to build. Maybe that's not the case.
You are convinced that is so for the form of creatine that you're talking about. I'm not actually very familiar with that one.
Oh, you are?
I'm not particularly familiar with the glycerol formulation. I've done a lot of work looking around the monohydrate version.
Yeah, it's most heavily researched.
That it does work and it does increase your performance, even if that's placebo. I would suggest to you that if it's not broken, you probably don't want to fix it. I don't see any huge risks with taking exogenous creatine. Unlike the junk we've just been talking about, those drinks, there are risks involved in those. They're clear, they're demonstrable. I wouldn't go anywhere near those. Creatine is in the category of things that are optional if people think they're useful and get something out of them, or at least believe they do. Fine, I've got no problem with that.
Okay. You're probably going to chuckle at this, but the creatine glycerol phosphate is something that I do recommend to all of my clients. And we sell it. And we've got requests for the more carnivore and meat and salt kind of people that we've been training lately. They're all requesting the unflavored. So I think I need to jump on that bandwagon too, because that would be, I guess, based on this talk, the only big red flag that you would probably see on that, not knowing all the ingredients too. I can pull them up, but okay. Cool.
Yeah, no, I would definitely advocate for the minimum of anything artificial or flavors or whatever added to anything.
Even stevia, monk fruit.
Yep.
Dude, okay. So my wife just made keto waffles right now, so I'm not going to have keto waffles tonight, I guess.
Sure. If something tastes sweet, what is happening is your tongue is sensing that sweetness. That is sending a message to your brain saying sweetness has just entered my mouth.
Yeah.
Your brain then immediately sends a message down to the production of insulin and says, right, start making insulin right now and start exuding it because sugar is coming. Because your brain doesn't know that there are no carbohydrates in this sweetness. Your brain only interprets the sweetness and immediately assumes that is carbohydrate.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I would stay away from that if it's at all possible. I myself am joint venture with and involved with a company that does nutraceuticals and supplemental products. And, I've been at them for months about one of their products, which is a great product, an awesome product. And I think the benefits of it probably outweigh any problems with the sweetener that it's got in it. But nonetheless, it has a sweetener in it. And I keep saying to them, you've got to either get this out of here or come up with an alternate formulation where you can say this is the unsweetened version for the carnivore community who will not go near that stuff.
Yeah,
because they're quite they're quite militant about it, and rightly so. So anyway, there's that.
Okay, great. So the changes that I'm making right now is to taper protein down, fat up slowly, so we don't shock the system. and I'm removing all processed foods, including artificial sweeteners. I mean, I'm a big fan of like yogurt and keto bricks, but I mean, that's stuff like that, you know, and so that has been roughly 10% of my diet based on the way this conversation is gone. And I've been kind of feeling like this would be a good idea anyway, would be just to remove everything and stick to exclusively meat and salt, not the LAYNE diet, but like, basically just meat and salt. For the next 4-8 weeks, I'll follow up with you then and let you know.
Awesome. What you'll probably find is what most people find is that after they've done this for 4 to 6 weeks with none of that nonsense in their diet at all, they normally get back to me and say, do you know what? I thought I was pretty healthy. I thought things were going pretty well and things were tracking pretty well. I tell you what, I had no idea how much just that little bit of stuff, what the effect it was having on me. They will generally, they get back and they rave about this. They go, wow, 10% transgression against 100% carnivore. You'd think that might reduce things by 10%. No, it's completely unfair. It's like, it makes a huge difference. Anyway, talk to me in 4 or 6 weeks and tell me what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to follow up with you on that. This is going to be a fun experiment. You know me, I'm a lab rat. So one more thing on that too. I think you might get a chuckle out of this is that the best physique of my life was actually 3 weeks after my last show. After I had, it was almost like not having that show there, being not fluffier, but just consuming a lot more food, having reduced stress. I looked better when I should have looked worse at that point 3 weeks after my last show than I did at the show. So lots of light bulbs going off and lots of things are clicking right now.
Cool.
And one more thing too, I just wanted to address real quick is I never ever recommend anybody to be at as low body fat percentage as I was for that extended period of time. And I would never ever do that to myself again either. That was a bad idea. I should have known better. Typically the experience that one of our clients will get going through a bodybuilding competition is to get as lean as lean as necessary for whatever it is important to them, whatever category it is. Like my wife, for example, this year, she's doing wellness. So it's a much softer look, not near as extreme as anything that I did. But typically like about down to 12%, 10% body fat is when a lot of our female clients like might lose their cycle for a week or two and be really hungry for, depending on the person, 4 to 8 weeks. And they know that going in. And then the reverse diet is critical coming out of it. And that's when we're talking every day. How are you feeling? How's your sleep? Okay, great. You know what? Yeah, let's start bumping up the protein. Let's start bumping up the fat. And then we start going the opposite direction. But again, it's not just, cold turkey.
Yeah, I, of course, would always be an advocate that you should never get to the point where a woman loses her cycle. If you can possibly avoid that. What
would be what would be the concern there? Just hormonal issues, imbalances. I mean, it's just an indication that there's some things that need to be addressed.
Osteoporosis is the problem.
I'm sorry.
Osteoporosis is the problem. Weakening, brittling of the bones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why you don't want to go there. In the female body, one of the vital, crucial roles of the secondary sex hormones is to keep the bone mineral density up.
Okay.
If there's insufficient fat coming in and stored on the body, then the woman's body becomes inefficient at producing that secondary sex hormone, and the calcium starts leaching out of their bones.
Okay. So if there's a
cycle back and that will sort it out. Well, no, because it takes years and years and years to form the bone mineral density and weeks and weeks and weeks to destroy it.
Wow. So as soon as we start hearing something like that is when I need to call them and go, hey, look, this may not be worth it. Here's what you're looking at doing if you still push through this show and you just lost your cycle.
Yeah.
That sounds
I wouldn't call that maybe. I would call that an immediate red flag. That is an emergency.
Okay, because it's common. You probably know this, but I mean, most females at bodybuilding competitions have lost their cycle already by that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And usually they're actually kind of happy about it too.
Hey everyone, Coach Taylor Milton here. Welcome to Skullbells TV, the official YouTube channel of supersetyourlife.com, where you're going to discover a weekly upload of quick and easy to follow workout tutorials featuring Coach Colt, myself, or one of our athletes to keep your workouts fun, practical, and effective. Our family's latest keto carnivore recipes that fuel Colt's competitions and keep myself and our kiddos strong and healthy. Video uploads of the supersetyourlife.com podcast, now over 100 episodes. Your weekly dose of entertainment, education, and inspiration to fuel your life inside and beyond the gym, and much more. Last thing before we get into the video, we're asking a big favor from you. This has been working beautifully, so if you would please think of someone you care about that would benefit from this video, go ahead and smash that like button, click the share button, and text this video to them. That would mean the world to us. And while you're at it, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss more exciting content from Skullbells TV, because our team has lots of meat and lots of muscle coming your way, and I promise you won't want to miss it. When you hit the subscribe button, you'll see a bell icon pop up. You want to click that too, so you're notified every time we release a new video. Thank you so much for the support. It means the world to us. Every like, share, and subscription helps our channel grow and supports our family's hard work. So thank you so much for doing your part too. That's all we ask. God bless you, and please enjoy this video.
There are people who absolutely would. There was a survey done at one of the Olympiads. I can't remember which one now. It doesn't matter because they're all the same pretty much. These attitudes are pretty prevalent. They asked a large sample of the athletes from all different countries who are at that Olympiad, if we could get you a drug that cannot be detected, you will not be found out, you will not be disqualified, you will get an increase in your performance to such a level that nobody else will have a chance, you will win gold. However, that drug will end your life 5 years after that. Would you take that drug? A huge proportion of the Olympic athletes said, yep, I'd do that. I'd shorten my life down to die in 5 years from now for a gold medal, you bet.
Yeah.
Now that's
I'm sure you're familiar with the word trenbolone.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an anabolic steroid that's supposed to be used for cattle and not even for human consumption.
Yeah.
I am not 100% sure, but I am aware that is it's the word on the street is that it reduces your lifespan, and people take it and they know it.
Yeah. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah. Okay. How are we doing on time? Looks like we got
I'm
about 5
okay.
minutes left.
As long as you're happy, I'm happy. I've got nothing else.
Okay.
Hard up against this time around. So yeah.
Well, great.
I cleared the decks just for you, Colt. No, I didn't really. It's just how it worked out.
I'm sorry. I missed what you just said.
I just said I cleared the decks just for you, and then I said, no, I didn't really. That's just how it worked out today.
Oh man, you made me feel real good for about 2 seconds. I'm just kidding. Triple protein refeed. All right.
Yep.
So we have a gentleman that is currently training 3 days per week with heavy gluconeogenesis spillover as his fuel source. He's doing this 3 days a week. Yep. I got his macros and everything right here in front of me.
Yeah.
He's back into ketosis for 4 days, and then in an attempt to build muscle later in the week on those high protein days and focus more on conditioning on the keto days. So far, he feels great and he's experiencing great results on paper. However, should we be concerned about this man being in gluconeogenesis this frequently?
Yep. I'm sorry, but that's just dumb.
Okay. He's been doing this for a couple of weeks, so I should tell him to stop then.
I would personally, I would not be encouraging that kind of behavior remotely.
Okay.
If you're going to behave that way, you might as well just pour sugar down your neck, because that's in effect what he's doing. It doesn't matter that the sugar's not being poured down his neck in the form of sugar. It's being poured down his neck in the form of extra protein that his body cannot use and metabolize for bodybuilding purpose. It is a problem with his insulin response long term. it is a problem in terms of the blood sugar control long term, it is completely unnecessary. You do not need carbohydrates in your diet to build muscle, nor to be an effective bodybuilding trainer, to lift heavy weights. The idea that carbs are required for that, and if you don't eat carbs, that your performance will slump and your ability to build muscle is all false, wrong. There's always a transition when you change your diet away from carbohydrates to a fat and appropriate level of protein. There was always a dip in your performance during that period, which lasts 6 to 8 weeks usually for most people, until you regain your normal level of strength, power, and output and all of that. Is it worth going through that? Yes, it is. Because the sugar, whether it's taken in the form of carbohydrate or whether it's added to your body in the form of gluconeogenic precursor in the form of too much protein.
At the end of the day, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. It will cause damage to your health. It's stupid and it should stop.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Do you think maybe that's why I got sick in the first place? Because your immune system is supposed to be great on the carnivore diet. I know.
That's hard to say.
Yeah. I've definitely been feeling better from a dietary perspective and digestion and everything since I made this switch.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Looks like
again, if other than the one thing I've already said, if you get nothing else out of this, here's another. If you get only one thing, this one would be good too. Mm-hmm. You do not need carbohydrates in your diet as a bodybuilder, none at all.
Yeah.
Not 1 gram ever. And you do not need tons and tons of protein.
Okay.
You need 1.75 grams per kilogram of lean body mass, whatever that is right now.
Okay. So I'm getting down to there, and I'm gonna hop on the phone with him after this too. break him the news. But yeah, I feel safer now. Thanks. After how you just explained that, taking him off of those high protein days, because the creatinine conversion.
Look, I'm really sorry. There's just no other word for it. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's got to stop. Yesterday.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And just for the record on him, I told him, I was like, do you want to do this? This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm concerned about. This is what I think you might experience. I don't want to do it right now because it's too complicated. And so 1 meal a day for me is kind of all I can do at the moment. But what do you think? And he was like, okay. Basically he's been a client of ours for quite some time now. And we're on that level to where I can do that. Certainly I would never have someone brand new try something like that, but he wanted to experiment too.
Fair play.
Yeah. Okay. Rep ranges. Is it okay if I ask a question on that? Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I'm a huge fan of how, and again, I'm going to throw out the name of someone that I just don't think that you're particularly like best friends with, but Coach Greg Doucette IFBB Pro.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway,
that man is not only an imbecile, a moron of the highest order, he is also a bona fide, established, convicted criminal.
I was unaware of that.
Guilty of the importation illegally into Canada of a controlled substance and holding it in his house in substances with clear evidence that his intent was to distribute illegally. He lost his teaching qualification and accreditation because of it, and he lost all credibility because of it. He might know something about weightlifting, but he knows nothing whatsoever about diet or nutrition or exercise physiology, actually the underpinning theology of it or theories of it whatsoever. He's a dangerous lunatic and an idiot, and nobody should ever pay any attention to anything he has to say on any topic. Once again, I hope I've been clear, but do carry on.
So I was correct in saying that you're not best friends.
Correct. Yes, correct. Absolutely okay. Correct. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. It's been a while since I've gone through any of his content, and what I did get from him before was
Ruptured eardrums, or
it was he's pretty loud and pretty intense on most of his videos, which is why whenever I would say like, okay,
partly because he destroyed his testicles with the gear, basically. That's why he sounds like he does.
I've got the impression that he's on maybe a few more supplements than I'm on. Yeah. Something that I did take away from him was mind muscle connection, and he was great at explaining it in the way that I was able to take that into my workouts and see some benefits there. So science, ethics, I mean, that's kind of a different topic, but thanks for informing me. Anyway, to work targeted muscles for 45 seconds, time under tension, and we talked about this at our last at our last conversation. So
to me, time under tension is vastly less important than intensity, weight being overcome during resistance training, and volume, in other words, sets and reps. The way that time under tension is optimized in my mind, based on the research that I've seen and based on clients that I have worked with and continue to work with, although I'm no longer active myself as a hypertrophy training person. I don't lift. Do you even lift, bro? No, not anymore. I'm also more than 50 years of age, so, whatever. The way that time under tension is optimized for me is that you explosively lift concentrically, and then the eccentric phase of the lift is completed as slowly as you can do that, taking as long as you possibly can to do the eccentric part of it, consistent with keeping your form correct.
Mm-hmm.
And you would use a weight that you cannot lift more than 8 times in a set.
I was gonna wait until you're done, but I wanted to add that in too. I was like, yep, that's the last thing he's gonna say is on that last rep, you shouldn't be able to do another one.
That's right. You should fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for that reason, a lot of my favorite exercises, like especially for a press, is dumbbells, and not even oh boy, we're talking about bench press. You're not a fan of bench press. Let's talk about
with dumbbells. It's okay. It's the barbell bench press that's the problem.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, there you go. Because then with dumbbells, you end with a negative, which makes way more sense. Because if you end with a contraction, you didn't really go to failure. You can still lower the bar.
Mm. Yeah. So you get to the point where you would try and lift those dumbbells a 9th time on your dumbbell bench press.
Yeah.
And you lock out at the bottom. You cannot, or you might get 2 or 3 inches, and then it's the failure, and dumbbells are dropped.
Yeah.
Not on the feet of your spotter, please.
Yeah. So I've been training. So I've been training to failure on just about every set since you brought this to my attention. And since we talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
What I've been experiencing and what I've been doing has been a hard contraction and a slow negative, and trying to keep but trying to aim for about 30 or 45 seconds. So instead of going for a 9th or a 10th or 11th rep, I'm like, can I make it to 45 seconds? Okay, if I can make it to 45 seconds for those 8 reps, then I guess I should probably be up the weight a little bit on my next set.
Yeah, always up the weight at that stage. Yep. You don't, if you can lift that weight a 9th time, it is not heavy enough.
Mm-hmm. And I've been doing about 25 working sets, tracking total volume, as per the recommendation of LAYNE NORTON. I said it with an M, and that's funny.
No, you had it right. LAYNE NORTON.
Because you usually I said it right. Okay. So volume for me has always just been a big indicator of whether whether my performance is headed in the right direction or not. And I don't think it's the best, but it's just what I've been using. But since reducing my total working sets from even just 25 to 20, I can't even go past 20 anymore. Like I can't, my workouts are shorter, and I feel like I'm not performing as well because I'm pushing to failure. But my results are great. I guess what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to tell you is that it worked, and I'm getting better results now with not having to do as much.
You will. It's great. That's the thing with exercise training that most people that train do not understand, and it's the thing that they get wrong more than anything else. more volume is not better.
No. And that's where I was trying to go with it. Sorry.
And that is not better still. And when that still doesn't get you where you want to be, it's not because your volume is still suboptimal and you should do even more. All of those are wrong. The most important thing is your intensity. And if you set your intensity correctly, that will reduce your capacity to do volume, precisely because the thing that allows you to exercise at higher volume is working at an intensity that is suboptimal in terms of your performance training outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
blood flow restriction. Are you a fan of that?
Fan might be a bit strong. I'm not against it necessarily, so long as it's done correctly, according to instructions and stuff. I'm aware of a bloke that has used it that seems to have got good results from so doing. I've never used it myself or played with it myself so much. It's one of those things that kind of came into vogue and into fruition, if you like, after I'd kind of finished my lifting career, such that was going to be, and I still coach people according to what I used and what worked for me. Now, if there's new technology that comes along that's definitely, absolutely, unequivocally much more better, then I guess I would take it on board. This one hasn't convinced me that it is such, primarily because necessarily what it does is reduce the intensity, the absolute intensity. And the idea is that your muscle is responding to the metabolic challenge more than it responds to the mechanical, physical challenge. And I'm not convinced that that is so. I'm also not convinced that it's not so. I'm saying I'm an open book on that one.
Okay.
But there are safety concerns. Absolutely, there are safety concerns with blood flow restriction training. If you do it wrong, if you get it wrong, you could do yourself a very, very serious damage, injury.
Yeah. Bench pressing 300 pounds will do that too. But of course, that's I know not something you would recommend either.
No.
On blood flow restriction, for me too, a lot of it's just a therapeutic part of it. Like on a stressful day, I don't know what it is, but man, the next hour, it's just like taking an ice bath. Like I just feel great for the next hour, like afterwards. It seems to release a lot of endorphins or something that just gets those creative juices going.
All right. If it works for you.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing. And I just kind of wanted to end on a fun note. What's your favorite kind of salt? Why and why?
I've tried various different forms of salt over the years. In terms of results from that, in terms of how they make me feel or whatever, I'm not sure that there is any huge benefit. I have tried Himalayan pink salt, the genuine Himalayan pink salt, that is, by the way. The way to tell is you get the pink salt and you dissolve it in a glass of water. And if the water goes pink, it's fake.
I'm sorry. I didn't follow you.
If the water goes pink when you dissolve the pink salt into a glass of water, then it's fake pink salt. It's dyed.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Pink salt is
I've never heard of somebody doing that before.
Yeah. So there you go.
But I'm not a fan personally of pink Himalayan salt.
Fine. Okay. Cool. Neither am I necessarily a fan. It's just something I've tried. I've tried black Himalayan salt, which is a different thing altogether.
How is it different?
It's black because it's got a lot of sulfur in it, and it's very sulfurous tasting. It's very poor, and it can be an issue later for those around you, shall we say?
Okay.
But I enjoyed that. I quite like the flavor of the sulfur, all that kind of thing.
All right, I got to try that one. I haven't had that one before.
Normal old everyday Cerebos iodized table salt is a staple. And we've kind of also settled mostly on plain old-fashioned sea salt. Put it in a grinder, use that.
Good stuff. Do you salt before you cook your meat, after you cook your meat?
Usually Pim adds salt while she's cooking, and I completely ignore the fact she's done that and add it to what I think it should be anyway. And she always says, taste it first. And I always say, it's going to taste like it needs more salt. It always does. It never doesn't.
Yeah.
I need the salt in my mind. It's getting salted. You do what you like with yours. You know? Yeah, I'm a fan of salt. I love salt. It's great. It's very important, I think.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you consume it both because you enjoy it and because it's something that's healthy. What do you look for? Is there any type of nutrients specifically that you're looking for when you
well, no. I mean, for me, the main,
you're just making sure you just sodium check. Is that kind of
exactly the main electrolytes are sodium, potassium, and chloride. Everything else, in terms of electrolytes,
I'm sorry, I thought it was sodium, magnesium, and potassium.
No.
Oh, for electrolytes?
Mm-hmm. In terms of the concentrations of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everything else is at a level in terms of concentration that's vastly orders of magnitude lower than those other three. And as such, you will get sufficient of all of those minerals in your muscle meat. It's in there. If anything is going to be off, it's going to be either sodium or chloride.
Like a deficiency?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so what you're saying is if you're eating nothing but meat and no salt, you might be deficient in sodium, obviously, and chloride?
Potentially.
Okay.
It's not a fait accompli. It's not definitely going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It also depends on your daily insulin cycle to keep your kidneys viable and non-leaky to such things. But if you're going to start leaking out anything that's going to cause you a problem, it's going to be sodium and chloride or potassium. So most of your salt ought to be sodium chloride. Occasionally, you might go with some no salt potassium chloride in a very small amount.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't find I need to take potassium chloride at all. I find I get enough in my diet.
Okay, good stuff.
So for me, that's it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that. I'm gonna ask for your shipping address after we're done recording, if that's okay. But I want to send you Mackay Pure Celtic Sea Salt. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one. Okay. It's hands down my favorite tasting salt on the planet. It's sourced out of Hawaii. Do you use a grinder? Are you a fan of like big chunky like finishing salts, or is that kind of too hardcore? Like, a grinder would make it a little more palatable.
I tend to go with the smaller grain.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send you one of the grinders.
Cool. We've actually got a grinder too, so yeah. Fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this one has the magnesium content is particularly high, and so a lot of our clients that want that are for whatever reason wanting more
magnesium, like anyone that has muscle twitches or restless leg or anything like that, it's likely that's magnesium.
Okay,
that's the thing I would go for.
And this might be bro science, but my cross country coach had always taught me that if you're experiencing muscle cramps during a workout and spasms, that's usually a potassium deficiency or hydration. But assuming that you're hydrated and have sodium checked, that potassium might be the culprit, and that if you're experiencing cramps later in the day, that could be a magnesium.
It's not impossible that might have some validity, but I would always look at magnesium as the most likely culprit. And that would be the first thing that I would deal with. Usually for magnesium, I would suggest that the most effective route is to actually dissolve it in a spray bottle and spray it directly on your skin.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? And my old bodybuilding coach, he was big into topical magnesium supplementation. And so
yeah.
Maybe I should look at that too. Awesome.
The reason for that is that if your body needs magnesium and you spray it on your skin, you will absorb it through your skin. If you don't need magnesium and you spray it on your skin, it will just sit there. Your skin will not absorb it.
Oh.
The same is not true if you consume magnesium in your food or drink that you did not need. Your kidneys then have to filter that out.
Okay.
So that's where the benefit is on that.
So it sounds kind of like a safe way to make sure you meet your requirements, but you can't, it's kind of, you really
the other thing you can do
overdose.
is, throw half a cup of Epsom salt in the bathtub and have an Epsom salt bath. Same deal.
Oh, okay. Because there's a high magnesium content in Epsom salt.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. We've had a couple salt experts on our show lately, and I can't believe that's something that we didn't cover, because Epsom salts, whether they work or not, it's kind of one of those things where, like, does it just make you feel good because you took a hot bath? Or
okay. Experts. I don't know if people have often broken that word down for themselves in their own mind and thought about it. I'll do it for you. X is an unknown quantity and a spurt is a drip under pressure.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last part again?
X is an unknown quantity and spurt is a drip under pressure.
I like. Okay. That's a good play on words. Thanks for that. Yeah. They were Daryl Bosshart, like the head researcher at Redmond Real Salt, and and Selena, the founder of Celtic. And so, yeah, I don't think that I asked them about salt baths specifically on that one, but that'd be fun to circle back around with. Anyway, yeah,
sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again so much for everything. Okay, so definitely know exactly what my homework is between now and the next time we chat. So thank you.
There'll be a test on it afterwards at the end of class.
You got it. Yeah. I'll let you know when I finish up, and hopefully I get an A.
Right.
All right. Thanks so much, Professor Kev.
Pleasure.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on this entire episode. If you found this helpful or entertaining, as always, please go ahead and share it with a friend. Couple closing announcements before we wrap up. March podcast reviews of the week. This is announcement number 1. Thank you so much for the reviews that y'all have been leaving on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify. As you know, we've been selecting one per week to feature and send a little gift as a token of gratitude, helping spread the positive vibes. February was T-shirt month. March is Celtic Sea Salt month. Simply give your honest opinion on any of our past or recent episodes. From there, we will pull one per week and announce your name at the end of the episode, requesting your shipping information, in which this month we are sending out what is essentially the #1 salt you will find at most health stores. Celtic Sea Salt Fine Ground. Holding in my hand, if you're watching on YouTube, great. If not, you have to imagine a blue bag of salt that tastes really, really good. This week's review is from episode 117 with Erica the Paleovore Duffy. This is from Javante. He says, "You guys look so young. I will be joining the 30s Club March 5th, so happy birthday." Sending you a birthday present, sir. Awesome interview, and I found the raw liver comment very interesting. I've made liver pate before, and the first day it was yummy, more so on the rare side. The next day I couldn't eat it. It was way too livery. So, just for the record, everybody, I'm not a doctor personally, and would definitely not recommend raw eating meat because that would be a liability. However, my personal favorite way to enjoy raw meat, raw liver that is with some good chunky, flaky finishing salt. And if I'm in the mood to cook it, I'll use calf liver, which is typically more fresh than cow liver. So what I do is chop it up into a bunch of little pieces, pour hot boiling bone broth over top of it, so that flash cooks it like really, really quick. Basically, it's how the Vietnamese make pho. So you still get that wonderful fresh flavor without having to cook out all of that deliciousness. But of course, if you're a savage like me eating raw meat, please check with your doctor first. So why Celtic Sea Salt? Glad you asked. I know you were thinking that. Taylor and I have been using Celtic Sea Salt Fine Gray, which is this month's promotion in the month of March, as our go-to ever since my bodybuilding coach Alfred Raouf recommended it to us using about 4 or 5 years ago. We love the flavor. I love the higher moisture content of a salt like this, more so than a pink Himalayan salt, partly because of preference, but also because it seems to keep my pork belly and chicken thighs, whatever meats I happen to be smoking, from getting too dry. Also, there's a trace amount of iodine, of which those on high meat diets like myself can tend to be deficient in because the standard American diet contains many foods high in iodine, which has caused humans to become dependent on a higher amount of iodine. All right, enough about iodine. Here are 10 reasons to use Celtic sea salt. And this is actually paraphrased straight off of the brochure that they were kind enough to include on our last stock order. All right, number 1, they are a #1 trusted brand. They are a 42-year-old family-owned brand. We interviewed Selena, actually, the founder on episode 89 of our show a few months ago. Going to record another one with them soon. Number 2, tested. Third-party testing to analyze materials, pH, and cleanliness. Number 3, unrefined. They never add or remove anything from the salt after it's been naturally sourced. No bleach, no anti-caking agents come close to their raw materials. Number 3, I just did number 3. Number 4, nutrition. Celtic sea salt has been a long-time component in natural nutrition programs. And yeah, Taylor and I are obviously on that bandwagon too. Number 5, minerals. The important combination of minerals in Celtic sea salt provides optimal nutrition for the normal functions of the body. Number 6, testimonies. Their salt has gained a positive reputation among hundreds of doctors, chiropractors, like Dr. Epic from California. You can hear his review of Celtic's magnesium-rich Mackay Pure Finishing Salt, sourced from Hawaii at the beginning of episode 125, just a couple of them ago. Number 7, lifestyle. Celtic sea salt believes in living the natural, healthy lifestyle. Number 8, taste. Celtic sea salt provides the ideal balance of minerals that bring you a superior, distinctive, and elegant taste. Number 9, electrolyte balance. Remineralize and hydrate your body using a few pinches of salt in your water. And this is definitely an acquired taste, but I love it and I do it personally. If you drink too much water, you run the risk of flushing out electrolytes. So having electrolytes in your water helps you to minimize the risk of doing that, but you definitely don't want to overhydrate too. So keep that in the back of your mind, please. Okay, and last but not least, number 10, superior selection. They offer a fair trade and sustainable sea salt harvested from pristine locations all over the world. Celtic sea salt, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so thanks again so much, Javante, for that. Please email me at colt@supersetyourlife.com with your shipping address, and I'm going to send some Celtic sea salt your way. All right, we're going to end with a customer review. This one is from a keto carnivore figure competitor and Army veteran from one of our recent 30-minute Zoom consultations. She would like to say, thanks so much, Colt. I enjoyed reading the PDF you sent over. So detailed and has everything I need. As you can probably already tell, I ask lots of questions. Good questions she was asking. So I know that I'll have more things that come to mind and pass along your way. Once again, thank you so much. Looking for the next consult. Looking forward to it too. All right. If you just need to know where to start too, by the way, listeners, that is, to get your physique from point A to point B, for those of us not on a monthly membership, like this lady here, on a coaching plan, we have been offering one-on-one private consultations in which we assess your body composition, current health condition, and body composition goals. We together build a customized, detailed meal plan on my computer over Zoom using best food options for your body, lifestyle, and results, macronutrient ratios, recommended water, sodium, and electrolytes, and if applicable, recommended performance supplementation. We will send you off with a recorded copy of our consultation, so don't even need to take notes. It's all right there. You got the recording, kind of like recording a podcast. And then support via email, answering any additional questions that you might think of next. Cool beans? All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us in this episode again. God bless you. Catch you on episode 130. Bye-bye.